In the wake of a very public scandal between him and his ex-wife Amber Heard, Johnny Depp was fired from the film franchise Fantastic Beasts, a spin-off of the Harry Potter movie series. Recently, he opened up about the moment he found out he would no longer be a part of the third film in that franchise and how it affected him. We're going to break it all down, so sit back, relax, and welcome to Studio Jake. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Don't pull right down the side. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the Studio Jake vidcast where we talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in the work that I do, head on over to my new website, studiojakemedia.substack.com, where you can find even more articles on pop culture and you could subscribe at different tiers. Thank you in advance. The scandal revolving around Johnny Depp definitely took a toll on his career, even though he was later exonerated in the court. Yes, I know he lost in the English case in the British courts, which are very, very biased against victims. But anyway, I still was excited to see that he was redeemed, at least in the eyes of the public, through the trial process in the United States. And one of the parts that he lost as a result of his name being tarnished through the whole trial by media that happened to him was in the third Fantastic Beast films. So he had a cameo in the first film, which was called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. He had a more prominent role in The Crimes of Grindelwald, which is the name of the character he portrays, and he was supposed to reprise that role in The Secrets of Dumbledore. Unfortunately, that is when scandal rocked his career. Now, like I said, he has since been redeemed and he's starting to appear in more films, some of which I have reviewed on my website, studiojakemedia.substack.com. We were kind of deprived of insight into his reaction to this, but in a recent interview, he did open up on when he was told to resign by Warner Brothers, the studio behind the Harry Potter franchise. This is according to fandompulse.com. Johnny Depp shared new details about how he was removed from the Harry Potter spin-off franchise Fantastic Beasts by Warner Brothers executives after he lost a trial in the UK against The Sun back in 2020. At the beginning of November 2020, Depp announced he had been asked to resign from the Fantastic Beasts franchise. He wrote on Instagram, "In light of recent events, I would like to make the following short statement. Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody who has gifted me with their support and loyalty. I have been humbled and moved by your many messages of love and concern, particularly over the last few days." He continued, "Secondly, I wish to let you know that I've been asked to resign by Warner Brothers from the role as Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts, and I have respected and agreed to that request. Finally, I wish to say this, the surreal judgment of the court in the UK will not change my fight to tell the truth, and I confirm that I plan to appeal. My resolve remains strong, and I intend to prove that the allegations against me are false. My life and career will not be defined by this moment in time," he concluded. Thank you for reading. Now, in an interview with The Telegraph, Depp shared more details on how he was forced out of the role. First, he stated it literally stopped in a millisecond, like while I was doing the movie. They said, "We'd like you to resign." But what was really in my head was they wanted me to retire. He was not happy about it and shared what his thoughts were. "F you. There's far too many of me to kill. If you think you can hurt me more than I've already been hurt, you're gravely mistaken." The article then goes on to discuss how Jude Law in particular reacted to the firing of Johnny Depp from the third Fantastic Beasts movie. So I highly recommend once you're done watching this, head on over to fandompulse.com and check them out. They've got a lot of great pop culture resources. And for my part, it is very sad that this had to happen to someone like Johnny Depp. And again, I'm not saying Johnny Depp is perfect. I'm not saying he hasn't made mistakes in his life. I'm not saying that some of his political takes are bizarre at least and kind of scary at worst. But I still think that what he went through, he was absolutely framed. He was torn apart by the media who was just after his scandal, because this all happened sort of in the wake of the Me Too movement, if for those of you who remember, because that movement fell apart when it stopped going after men who were actually guilty and started targeting men just for sitting on a chair because they thought their legs were spread out too far, or for a man saying, "Hey, how's it going? You look nice today." All of a sudden, all of these things were microaggressions that equated, some commentators said, to some form of assault. And that was just horrible. With Johnny Depp's case, you had everything. You had an attractive ex wife who was spouting all these things about him with his past and past accusations against him. It all came together in sort of this culmination that was just ripe for a media hungry to destroy, particularly straight white men during the Me Too era. Johnny Depp was unfortunately a casualty of that. So it is really sad to see that an artist at the peak of his career, he's climbing high. He's been a part of Pirates of the Caribbean. He's been in true crime films like Black Mass. He had been in a film about the slaying of Tupac and Biggie Smalls, but that one got delayed because of the scandal. And when it came out, by golly, it was pretty good, I have to say. But it got delayed because of the scandal, not to mention his amazing film Minamata, which was about a photographer who went to Japan to photograph people and victims of a polluted water system. It was a stunning and beautiful film that deserved to get all kinds of accolades, but because of a scandal, it was pushed to the side. And Johnny Depp isn't the only victim of this. We can talk about James Franco. We could talk about Kevin Spacey and a whole host of other people who are just caught up in the maelstrom that was the Me Too movement. It was a really sad sort of place in our society. And what's even worse is the courts for a long time. And by the way, in the UK, Johnny Depp was just dragged through the mud by the media there, even more so than here in the United States, which was kind of funny because neither him nor Amber Heard are British, but the newspapers there, they just savaged him, and he deserves to own them, quite frankly. Now, I don't know about the Telegraph, who he did this interview with, but I do hope that eventually those court systems will be appealed. And one of the worst offenders was Dan Wooten. He just wrote incredibly horrible things about Johnny Depp, all that ended up not being true. So it really bugs me because people still have him on as some sort of expert, and particularly in Me Too. But apparently he's had a change of heart because one of his partners actually falsely, he claims, falsely accused him. So now all of a sudden Dan Wooten is touting a different horn. Funny how that works, isn't it? But that's the media for you. And if they aren't actually doing the things they're accusing others of doing, that's hypocrisy for them. That's that double standard that the media has for themselves. All that to say, this did give us some insight into what Johnny Depp was going through, what he was thinking when he was removed from the cast of Fantastic Beasts. And I actually refuse to watch the third Fantastic Beast films, The Secrets of Dumbledore, for this reason. I think that they should have just let it play out because the public definitely turned the tide on the onslaught and the trial by media, especially when a lot of the recordings featuring Amber Heard came out, and just how her attorneys were manipulating the media all the way down from the lowest of the gutter with TMZ all the way up to the highest ones in places like CNN. Just terrible, awful, no good, very bad things were written about Johnny Depp that just simply weren't true. And I'm glad that his career is on the upswing again. And like I said, if he says something politically innocuous that's very stupid, like all celebrities, I'll call him out on that because that's how I roll. I love calling out celebrities and their hypocrisies. But when it came to what Johnny Depp was accused of, I'm glad he was exonerated because he certainly was not guilty of that, in my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there. But I do think that the media handled that situation so poorly, as they have done many other times. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment and tell what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in the work that I do, head on over to my website, studiojakemedia.substack.com. I've got even more pop culture commentary over there, and you can subscribe at different tiers that unlock different perks, including being able to pick out a topic for the website or right here on this vidcast. So thank you in advance for doing that. I really appreciate it. On that same website, there's a conveniently titled section called Buy My Books where you can pick up all my books. I've got links all over the place, and they're all available on Amazon just in time for Prime Day. So you can get one or all four, leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.